It's been 12 years since Terraria was first unveiled to the world, and most people know how successful it's become. It's the 10th highest selling game of all time, it's the highest reviewed game ever on Steam, and during its first month on sale, it made over $3 million. However, what you might not know is that Terraria's initial development wasn't exactly smooth. Instead, it was best described as chaotic. Terraria became an instant success, selling 50,000 copies on its first day. That level of initial success for some studios could have been the result of years of work and a giant team of people, but instead Terraria was developed primarily by one person with barely any budget in the span of 151 days. And this is the story of how that happened. The exact date Terraria began development is unknown, but we do know that it was some point in January of 2011. In fact, the game's website domain was purchased on January 21st. The initial team working on the game was small to say the least. There was Andrew Spinks, the designer / coder, who coded the game, drew the initial art, sourced the sound effects, and founded Relogic, the game studio. There was also Jeremy Garrett, whose role it was to manage the beta team, write dialogue for the NPCs, manage the social media accounts, and be a point of contact for the community. There was also 20 beta testers, most of whom carried over from Andrew's previous project, Super Mario Bros. X. Although they were not official employees of Relogic, they were a valuable part of Terraria's creation, throwing out ideas and suggestions that helped shape the game into what it became. During the first month of Terraria's development, the foundations were laid through 3 small updates. With version 0.1, things such as dirt, stone, trees, basic tools and weapons, clouds, tooltips, and mushrooms made their way into the game. 0.2 added net play, character customization, accessory slots, crafting stations, clocks, tables and chairs, tree regrowth, demon eyes, lenses, zombies, bows, the Eye of Cthulhu, and PvP. 0.3 took it further by adding in chests, mouse color settings, magic mirrors, fallen stars, fall damage, arrow types, the cloud in a bottle, Hermes boots, evil grass, hearts that drop from enemies, corruption chasms, sunflowers, vile mushrooms, cavern backgrounds, and even the Star Fury. As a Terraria fan, it's wild to think about how many iconic Terraria items were created and added in that first month alone. Throughout February, Andrew was hard at work adding in things such as the Eater of Worlds, their drops, copper, iron, silver, and gold armors, grappling hooks, piggy banks, smashable pots, the merchant, the arms dealer, the nurse, wooden back walls, various guns, the dryad, mana potions, and a mana meter, the goblin invasion, various mana weapons, the underworld, rocket boots, and a ton more. The game was also up to version 0.5. And reading that all out sounds comical because of how much I've got to say, but those initial days were lightning fast. February was also the time Andrew reached out to Lloyd Shelley via the Indie Gamer forums about composing the game's music. Scott was sent some images of the game and an early build, which he said he died a lot in, and although the budget was pretty low, Scott described having a feeling that it was something he had to do. The first song that he worked on was the day theme. He said, "I felt it needed to be sparse, open, adventurous, somewhat retro, but unique and modern as well." He said for each track, it probably took between 2 and 3 days for each cue, and that he was aware it would be played often, so he didn't want them to be overpowering.
But it's funny when something like that, you don't know. But I had a feeling I should do it. I had a feeling, well, this is something I should do.
In March, lots more was added, such as water candles, books, bones, cobwebs, the water bolt, Skeletron, the demolitionist, the day theme was added, sand, glass, signs, water, lava, ash block, hellstone, bone serpents, and obsidian. Keep in mind, I'm only highlighting the most notable things because a lot was added in a very short span of time. April is where things got very interesting, as this is when they'd announced the game to the world. Alongside adding various new things to the game, such as the underground jungle, Andrew began working on the game's announcement trailer, which would release on April 18th, 2011 alongside the Terraria.org website. This announcement trailer changed everything and was an overnight success, reaching over 500,000 views in the span of 2 weeks. Keep in mind, in 2011, 500,000 views was a crazy figure. Initial interest in the game was ferocious. Terraria fan sites were created, Andrew and Jeremy were contacted by tons of media sites, the creator of Minecraft tweeted out the game trailer, which was huge, and everything seemed pretty peachy. That didn't last long though. Red and Blue even recorded a Let's Play of Terraria, which they slowly released day by day on the Relogic YouTube channel, which gave people an even closer look. The game was changing day by day too, with Andrew adding in things like the star cannon, phase blades, buckets, jungle roses, the meteor hammer, stingers, vines, the ivy whip, the blade of grass, custom controls, and parallax scrolling. At the end of the month, things were looking good. The game was up to version 0.7.1, with good progress being made. The initial interest in the game was phenomenal, if not a little overwhelming, and they were comfortable giving the game to YouTubers like Paperbat VG and the Yogscast. On May 2nd, 2011, Andrew said in an interview that he was aiming for a release window sometime between May and July. Little did he know that only 3 days later, an early build of the game would be leaked, throwing his plans to the wind. This leaked version of the game was not favourable at all, as it was an early build from January/February. This might have even been the version that Scott Lloyd Shelley saw before working on the game's music. In this build of the game, barely anything was done. Placeholder sprites were used, you couldn't even save. From my understanding, the person that found this version of the game also found a version that auto-updated, which gave them access to version 0.7 from April. The leaker contacted Jeremy about the issue and was hoping in return they'd let him join the beta team, but for obvious reasons they didn't, and in return the leaker shared version 0.7 2 days later. And if you'd like to learn a ton more about these versions, I've already done a separate video which I'll link at the end. With a fairly complete version of Terraria now out in the wild, Andrew had to work very quickly to get out ahead of it and offer a legal way for fans to purchase the game. On May 7th, they announced the game would be releasing in June 2011. On May 9th, they announced the game would be coming to Steam, and then on May 12th, they announced the game would be launching in 4 days. Before then though, Andrew kept working on the game, and in the 2 weeks leading up to the game's launch, plenty was added, such as the Phoenix Blaster, the Star Fury, Hell Forges, Clay Pots, Nature's Gift, Shiny Red Balloon, Silk, and Beds. Immediately after the leak, every version of the game seemed to be working on refining what was already added, presumably to get the game ready for a very quick launch. It was at this point that Finn Bryce was also brought onto the team, just before the Steam launch, to help tidy up existing sprites and work on creating new ones. Andrew also worked on the game's launch trailer, and according to Jeremy, he tried his best to emulate the announcement trailer with similar scene flows and player actions. From January 1st to May 16th, 2011, only 151 days had passed, but the game was ready. Terraria sold 50,000 copies on its first day, 200,000 in its first week, and nearly 500,000 by June 2011. It may have only taken 151 days, but as we know, Relogic continued to grow and evolve and give us countless free updates. Despite being forced to launch early, the game did incredibly well, and Andrew could have stepped away then. It's been 4,385 days since that launch, and Terraria is still being worked on today, and to that, I say thank you. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please consider subscribing, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.